Young David has annoyed his brothers in Saul's army for coming to the battlefield, but he does not lose heart, and his indignation towards Goliath the Philistine boaster is heard by King Saul, who sends for him. Hi, I'm Ken Godevinus, and this is Digging for Scriptural Gems. Thanks for joining me today as we keep studying the book of 1 Samuel together. Today looking at chapter 17, verses 31 to 40. You'll remember that David is known to Saul already as the skillful musician or lyre player whose music calms the king every time the evil spirit torments him. So David could easily speak to the king on this occasion, and he does. Verse 32 has him saying to Saul, "Let no man's heart be discouraged on account of Goliath. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Can you imagine? Here's a young man telling a king and a mighty warrior in his own right and his entire army not to fear or lose heart because of Goliath's challenge to a one-on-one fight with any Israelite that will take him on. A kind of winner-takes-all fight, and whoever wins, his side would rule the loser's side. The stakes are truly big, but the God of David is bigger. So David says to Saul, "I'm your man." Saul appears not to be so sure, reflecting on David's youth and comparing it to Goliath's many years as a warrior. David, therefore, has to present his credentials in the form of his relevant past experiences. And he tells Saul about the time he rescued a lamb from a lion's mouth and then killed the lion. And then he says he did the same to a bear. And this uncircumcised, read non-Israelite Philistine, will end up the same way, he says, because he has taunted the armies of the living God. The LXX Greek manuscript includes these words that are excluded in the MT manuscript. "Should I not go and smite him then, and remove today reproach from Israel?" What an honorable object. What an honorable goal. But David didn't stop there. He went on to assure Saul that the God who delivered him from the hands of the lion and the bear will deliver him from the hands of this Philistine. David Guzik reminds us that, quote, "This is generally God's pattern for preparation. He calls us to be faithful right where we are, and then he uses our faithfulness to accomplish greater things. If David ran scared at the lion or the bear, he would never have been ready to fight Goliath now. But he was faithful then, so he will be faithful now. God prepares us mentally and physically if need be, and spiritually for a future service to him or a battle on his behalf. David slew the lion and the bear, but he also knew that it was God who enabled him to do so. And Saul, desperate to give anything or anyone a chance to deal with this challenge, agreed and perhaps reluctantly told him to, quote, "Go, and may the Lord be with you," end of quote. David Guzik says Saul waited a long time, at least 40 days, to hear someone say these words. But to hear them now, from the mouth of this boy, almost seemed like a cruel joke. It was not. Saul must also have missed the part of David saying he killed those wild animals with his bare hands and proceeded to load David up with all sorts of armor. In fact, the text implies that some of the outfit was actually Saul's. Imagine, David tried to walk with it all on, but it was very hard as the weight was great and he had not tested them. You could just see David, little David, in Big Saul's armor. So what did he do? He told Saul he's taking them off. Saul, true to character, was still relying on human strength and arms to win a battle, rather than on God. Instead, David picked up his own rod or staff, 5 smooth stones from the nearby brook, which he put in his shepherd's pouch, and held on to his sling. Then he proceeded towards the Philistine. So notice, David feels, talks, denounces, prepares, and then moves towards the enemy. That's faith. Let's stop there today and go digging for scriptural gems. First, Chuck Smith gives us a gem in taking us backstage with respect to the smooth stones that David picked up. He suggests that when God created the earth, knowing what was going to transpire in this particular valley one day, when God made this valley and this particular little stream bed, God just placed thousands of smooth, round stones in this particular bed. Smith says, I've never seen any stream bed with so many smooth, round stones. Beautiful stones for a sling, end of quote. As God who created time itself, he has perfect control over it and across it, even over light years. That's our God, knowing the future in every detail and providing for it. I think that another gem we can find here is noticing that David's words were not at all that bold. He never said, if I went out to fight against that Philistine, I would whip his tail. He's nothing. No, David didn't talk like that, but at least he stood up to Goliath. David didn't show a lot of backbone, but he showed more courage than anyone else in Israel. So it was worth reporting that courage to Saul. When God is on our side and we're acting on his behalf, we don't need backbone. We need faith, and then the courage to rely on our faith because we know it's based on who God is. Thirdly, we can note that David took his feelings. Who is this Goliath to taunt the Lord's army? And realize that he had to turn them into action. I will fight for him, or I will fight him rather, for God. I'm very involved on various social media platforms, encouraging others in whatever way I can. Those of you that follow me know that. And I will be the first one to tell you how hard it is for me, for others, for most people, to turn our feelings and even our words into action. God is looking for men and women who know and share his heart, who have the same indignation as he does towards evil, and most of all, who are prepared to risk their lives fighting it. Those people, sadly, are very few. But God only needs a few, if any. Fourth, I wonder how many of us are fighting battles today or trying to help others win their battles, and we who should know better are simply giving them human advice rather than pointing them to the God who is unbeatable. In fact, I wonder how many of us have relied on human means to win our own battles rather than on God, or at least have those alternatives as backups just in case. If we're to conquer for God, we, like David, need to shed the human armor and the human ways and put on the spiritual armor of God. Let me leave us today with at least one question that I hope you will try and answer through a YouTube comment at the bottom of the page you're looking at. Here's the question. Why did David pick up 5 stones from the brook when, as we find out, he only needed 1? Okay, next time we'll study the outcome of the fight between David and Goliath. It's a fight that is used to describe a very unbalanced competition even today, thousands of years later. Join us for that. And in the meantime, I would ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll be notified, or you can send me an email. My email address is at the end of the video, and I'll put you on a BCC list. And by the way, 2 new subscribers this week. Thank you so much. Share these videos with others. Write to us, questions, answers, comments. Love to hear from you. And above all, keep on studying God's Word. Also, we have started a Digging for Scriptural Gems online community on a Facebook group where we can all post the gems we find in our own studies, ask and answer each other's questions, and provide assistance to one another. Please go to Facebook and search for digging for scriptural gems, and then join us. God bless you.